What up, young slumlords and ladies? This is Jake Lapp, and welcome to the Young Slumlords podcast, where me and Caleb Henshaw talk our shiz and hopefully help spark the idea for finding your financial independence in this paycheck-to-paycheck world. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Sorry about no episode last week. We kind of decided together that we're going to go from now on and drop an episode every 2 weeks. So we've been having awesome guests, and we've been really fortunate to be able to pull all these guests from just kind of people we know and people we've met along the way. And we still have a lot of great guests lined up, but we're trying to, keep the quality up and not just push mass quantity, get whoever we can on the podcast. And we want to have the best thing for everyone. So we're going to once every 2 weeks for now. And this episode this week, it's actually just going to be me and Caleb. We haven't had an episode with just us in a little bit, and we kind of wanted to go over all the episodes because I think that there's so much content in each of the episodes that it could be hard to dissect and pull the value out of each one if you're not consistently writing notes while you listen, which I know I don't always do. And so I'm sure a lot of the listeners also wouldn't. So, just kind of, we wanted to run through all the episodes and just kind of extract some more value and show kind of the stuff that we really got from each one. So, but before that, I kind of wanted to give some life updates for the both of us and let you guys know kind of what we're up to, landlord stuff we've been doing, and next deals financially, whatever. So with that, I wanted to hand it over to Caleb and say, what's going on, man? What have you been up to?
Yeah, lots of changes, actually. It's been a busy couple of months. I've been in the middle of transitioning into a new role at my current company, which has been a lot. And then also taking another job on the side to do more in the tech field and get a little bit more mentorship from somebody who's been in the game for a long time. And then also time's running up on my year of being in this duplex now, so time's been flying by so fast. So now it's just a matter of trying to get my savings rate as high as possible, start looking at cashing out my investments to get the money ready to go into another deal. And it's just been a lot. And then on top of that, I've got a nice little certification I got lined up. I've been studying for, put about 45 hours in the last week and a half on top of working full time. So that's been keeping me pretty busy. So it's it puts it in perspective of just all the time that I put in now, I know I'll be getting so much return back for in the future. And it just kind of puts me back in that mindset of what I was when I first got this duplex, of just being I just have to hustle right now and just get all this done now. And it's just, everything just becomes clear on what I need to do. And I just think it's just it's helping me stay sane a little bit, just staying busy. So how about you? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, no, nothing. I've been, talking to you along the process, and all with the new job, it's everything's just lining up, and I can identify with that feeling. I remember kind of that feeling where the jobs are coming, the opportunities are coming, everything's happening at once, and it's all because of considering your future self in the decisions that you're making every day. I remember I had this weird conversation with Kayla. I was thinking about it, and I was I'm just, a lot of times, I think of my future self in a third person perspective, and it's so weird. It's a weird concept to someone who hasn't thought about that. She thought I was going insane. She was are you okay? Is that weird to think about? And it's no, the regular check-in, what am I doing today that future Jake in next year, future Jake in 10 years is going to think about? When I look back on myself as a 24-year-old, am I going to be happy of what I was doing? And it's I'm trying to make that answer yes. I'm trying to make these decisions now that are going to benefit my life later on. And I think that just kind of the discipline aspect that comes into that is crazy, because it is kind of a crazy person's thought process. I'm thinking about this separate entity who is myself, but it's like I want them to approve of what I'm doing. I want myself to be happy. And by making that disconnect makes it easier to make the right choices. And, I've seen you doing that, like lining it up for that future self, the future return, like putting in the countless hours now for later. And
I don't think it's a crazy thing to do. I think like humans are like the only creatures on the planet who have the ability to do that. And I think it's
that
like,
we know.
Yeah, true. These crows are pretty crazy. But no, I mean, like having the ability to see yourself in the future and looking back, like as a third person, just knowing like, am I doing the right thing? Of course, you're never going to know exactly what's going on. Like, you might be in a completely different situation where, you're not doing the best you can. But if right now you are working towards the goal of being the best you can, it's just like, what else can you do? I don't think it's something that a lot of people don't do now, where it's like, what's going on now? I just want to get to Friday. I just want to be able to get what I need to get done now so I can relax and enjoy myself for the weekend. And then you kind of just get stuck in that grind for like 45 years,
Right.
So it's like something that I think is super important to just sit back and think like, where do I want to be in 3 months? Where do I want to be in 6, 12, 36? How many years ahead do I want to look back at myself and like, is what I'm doing now worth my time? Is it helping me? Is it hurting me? Because like, if you don't think about it, you're just going to stick to doing what's easy, what's comfortable. And then, in that future self, you'll be like, wow, I really wasted a lot of time. Or, look back like, wow, if I really set myself up for success with what I did back then.
Yeah. Like since we started the podcast in December, it's been like, I want to say like an average of like 2 to 5 people every week, like either old friends that I haven't talked to since the 5th grade or like, guys in my circle, family, like people have been reaching out to me a lot more about finances and stuff like that. And I've been listening to a lot of different perspectives on what we're doing. And it's really interesting to think about and to talk about constantly. Like every week I'm looking at someone else's situation and like how can you get to that financial independence. Like I've been really actually excited. I've been talking and to my friends and stuff, and I've been, when I get to this financial independence point, what's the next step? What's that next thing that I'm going to do? Like I've said before, I really enjoy my job, but it's not something I'm passionate about. And having these financial discussions and helping other people find it, whether it's exactly what I did or not, in most cases it can't be. Everyone has different resources, everyone has different circumstances and life experience and
strengths as well.
And strengths. Everyone has different everything. So like, but by being able to like dissect each situation and, kind of plan things out off of other people's strengths, like it's been a lot of fun. And I've been thinking more about like in the future when that financial independence happens, like doing financial independence planning, like being
a fire coach pretty much.
Yeah. So like something where I think a lot of people who are financial planners, the only way that they make money is by being a financial planner. And I think it's like backwards. I think how are you supposed to
it's like a conflict of interest.
Yeah. How are you taking advice from someone who needs your money to make their money? Like, oh yeah, I'm rich because of you. Like that doesn't, it's counterintuitive and it doesn't make sense to me. So I think by being able to hit that goal, whenever that goal comes, being able to kind of spread the knowledge and, the stuff that we're doing now is great, but by talking, what we're talking about is just our experiences and our guests' experiences. It's not like this custom fit thing to whoever you are.
Yeah,
and there's
no
a lot
magic bullets.
Right. Right. And I mean, you can take the stuff from us and pick what's good, pick what's not. And like, I kind of wanted to talk about that too today, but the analysis paralysis, like I think so many times, like it just gets oversimplified. It's like this, don't have analysis paralysis, take action. And it's like, but if you're a smart person, you want to take in all the information, you want to learn the most that you possibly can to make the best decision that you possibly can. And I think that's hard to do with the amount of info that we have. Like, you could listen to podcasts for
The
a
rest
year
of your life.
Yeah, forever. And learn something new every day, and learn something better. Someone's getting a better return on their money. Someone's doing something more passively. Someone's doing, and it's just compounding and over again, you're just second guessing what you should be doing. Where like finding your strength and really like looking inwards on like, what do you want to be doing? What's the thing that makes the most sense for your situation to be doing? And like taking action, whether that taking action is buying a property or saving money. In most cases, it's saving money. Like, how can you do that quicker? And
I think a challenging part, though, is like most people, especially myself included, don't know what they want or even what their strengths are until they start doing stuff and then realize, like, this is not my strength. Like, I know that for a fact now. Or, like, I'm actually pretty good at this. I think I could see myself doing this more in the future. And, like, that 100% requires you to, jump in and start doing it before you can figure out those answers, because, you could guess all you want, but then if you commit yourself to something for a long time and then you find out you're not passionate about it, you're not strong at it, you don't enjoy doing it, it can be challenging. But I think, like, for my unique situation of not knowing much about real estate at all, besides like the numbers and how it worked before jumping into the deal, was like my best situation, because I enjoy analyzing the crap out of stuff, just like knowing everything I possibly can to like fully understand what's going on underneath before I get into it. And this was something I knew that like I knew that analysis paralysis was a thing, and I thought if I get myself into that pit, I'm never going to get out again. So I just got to do it without even thinking about it and then figure it out as I go. So it's definitely a balance of finding what you're good at. And if you do enjoy doing work on specific things, you can look for ways to apply that into investing in real estate and all that. But I think a big part of this is just jumping in and just getting started.
Right. So yeah, kind of going back to like life updates, I'm just about ready for the next deal. I just got my pre-approval for, the next property. And like I've said on here before, my next strategy that I've been hoping to really implement was using my FHA loan, which I haven't used yet, which is, again, it's the 3.5% down, PMI that doesn't go away. It's a loan that's kind of instilled for people with bad credit who normally wouldn't have the ability to get a loan. And so it's also harder with the market the way that it is. You've got all this competition, and if you're only, there's so many downsides of the FHA loan. Like
you're the bottom rung of the offers when you put an FHA in, to say like the short and sweet part.
Absolutely. So, you've got these requirements that FHA builds in order for them to give you this loan, the house needs to meet this. And if you don't meet it, it becomes the seller's burden, where now in order to sell it to you, they need to make those changes. They need to do all that work, put in all that money for you to get into it. And so that sucks. The appraisal sucks because it sticks with the property for 6 months.
And everyone can see it.
So it's now really limiting the possibility of the appraiser had a bad day, I'll get a better one tomorrow. That's how it is on the conventional. So I've got that working against me. I've got the
market right now as well.
The market's crazy. So like, you've got all these people buying. Why do an FHA loan? So I have been thinking about it a lot, talking to a lot of people, and I think with any loan, with any house that I'm going to do, and again, I could do another similar property, either the triplex or the duplex, claim residency, put a lower down payment. But with the FHA, I'm really hoping to utilize it to the best of its ability to get a 4-unit or like a really nice 3-unit that has the biggest potential for cash flow and leverage a lot more. I wouldn't want to do a 3.5% down on a $200,000 property right now, because I'm, you can only have one going on at once. I want to utilize this tool to the best of its ability. So now where I'm at was the next step would be a 203K loan, which is another program through the FHA loan that includes the rehab cost in the loan amount. So if the property's $400,000, needs $100,000 in work, the loan is for $500,000. I'm putting 3.5% on $500,000, and it's going to come up to standard. You can do cosmetic stuff. You can choose to do stuff. It doesn't have to be just the safety punch list, but it's initially going to go off of that. The FHA guidelines, it needs this done to be eligible. So I started calling contractors.
Oh yeah, because you like are required to have a licensed contractor for the 203K loan. You can't just like take the money and then just walk away with that money. You have to have a licensed contractor put up their bid for it and say like have a plan written out of like this is when we're going to be able to do this and this, and this is the government then pays when you complete those parts of the job. So it can be hard getting contractors because some of them are used to getting paid up front for jobs, and that's impossible with this. You cannot get paid up front. So
Right.
it can be tricky to find people to even take the work in the first place, especially when things are as busy as they are now for these contractors.
Right. So, and I never had a contractor. I never had to hire a contractor. I wasn't sure kind of the steps, and I have a few connections who are licensed contractors, and I talked to 4 of them, and everyone's booked out for the year. I talked to someone the other day who turned down $1 million worth of work this year, and he could take those jobs if he had the subcontractors to do it. He can't even find subcontractors to come on to get this work done. So finding a good contractor right now is near impossible. So I talked to another contractor, and I told him the situation. I said, this is what's going on. Is there any way you could help me out? And he was like, I can't, but what I could do is I could hire you to the company. You could become one of my employees, one of my subcontractors, and you could do the work yourself. You could clock your hours in the amount of time that you're spending. If my guys have time on the weekend, if they want the overtime, they can come on you and put their hours on your job, and we can do it that way, which for me, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to do. I wouldn't hire a contractor if it was up to me, but now what the way that we're structuring it is going to be, we set whatever hourly rate that we want. He brought up an interesting point where if I gave myself a high hourly rate, I would get taxed a lot more for that high hourly rate, where I could do a low hourly rate, and then he could give me a bonus as an employee where it's taxed at a different level, where, I made sure that I need this guy to feel comfortable with it. I need him to, vet the job, agree with the steps that I'm doing, agree with the bid, and I need him to make money. Like, no one does anything for free, and for someone that's willing to help me out, I need them to make money. So we set up a amount that I want him to make, that he wants to make, and through the bonus and my hourly rate, I can kind of come up with the rest. I guess it's a loophole. Like, that's like a kind. It's not really a way around it, but it's working with the program and doing it under someone who's licensed and insured. That's not myself, but I'm able to do the work on it, which is just like something that I didn't really think about before. And I think it's a really useful tool for a lot of people, especially with this crazy market and the lack of contractors. So I'm actually super stoked about this. I'm looking at a 4-unit now, and I've got all these plans in my head, and I kind of fell in love with the place, even though I don't have an offer accepted or anything like that. I haven't even been through
I was going to say,
two of the units.
You haven't even walked in some of them, right?
Right. So
yeah, nice.
It's still definitely a stretch, and this deal might not work, but I've through this deal, I'm learning steps and things that I can put into action for any deal in this type of circumstance. So I'm stoked about it. Other than that, we've been.
Something that just came into my head was like how you can only have one FHA at a time. And with the 203K loan, you put a ton of sweat equity back into the house, so that it'll definitely appraise for more in the future after you put all that work in. Something I thought of was, since you only have one, you're required to have at least 20% down in your FHA before you can refinance out into a conventional loan. I wonder if you would hit that if you put enough work in with the 203k. You can immediately jump out again.
Yeah.
And then, after say 6 months or whatever for the seasoning, whatever the conventional banks require, and then just turn around and then do it again.
That's part of the 203k process. Like they bring in an ARV. Like you have to get an ARV for the after repair value. Like that's once everything's done, you get the appraisal today. What's it going to appraise at when all this work is done that the contractor bid on? If we can hit that 20%, that's a no-brainer. Something that's like 500,000. The PMI stuck with the FHA that lasts for the term of the loan is like $300-$400 a month, and like by being able to refinance that into a conventional loan, that's $300-$400 a month of cash flow added. So like the sooner we can get there, I think even afterwards, if I had 15%, I would put another 5% down into the deal
just to get there faster.
On top of my mortgage payment, like overfunding the mortgage every month to touch the principal and get out of that situation as quick as I can, because
FHA loans are expensive. They're like the private mortgage insurance we call PMI. It's different for FHA because it's not private, it's through the government, but it's super expensive, and like they have to balance out that mortgage insurance for everyone with FHAs from like decent credit to super bad credit. So that's why it's so expensive. It's because your insurance rate is factoring in other people's payments and like their credits as well. So that's why it's so high. It's not just yours. So It's just something that can erase a deal's cash flow if you're paying $400 or $500 a month for just insurance for the loan itself. So definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Getting out of that as soon as possible.
And then with that, comes, okay, we're hopefully moving soon. So now, some of the stuff on the back burner of the house, of our rental that we're living in, we want to get up to snuff where we're ready to move out sooner than later. So I've been doing a lot of little upgrades, fixing things along the way, and it's been busy. But I'm just super stoked to get into this next one. The cash flow, even if the next deal doesn't have a ton of cash flow and I just end up living for free again, the cash flow from our last, where we're living now, will jump us up, another $1,000 or $1,100 depending on what we get, which will be, again, really impactful on the savings rate going forward, where, I'm actually hoping for this coming year to do 2 deals. And I don't know if that second deal is going to be something local, buying as strictly an investment, getting something cheaper, putting 20% down, or, I've been really kicking around the 10% down vacation property and
getting that Airbnb money.
Exactly. So I've been scouting around in Florida, and I've been looking in Puerto Rico too, which would be pretty freaking cool. The hurricanes aren't that cool, but the rest, the upside for the Airbnb stuff, to have a vacation property to go to. And while I'm not there, the biggest thing is going to be finding someone that I trust to clean and to do the upkeep on the property. So that's not right on my plate, but it's something that I'm constantly thinking about and looking at. So those are 2 exciting things, and work's been good. Getting closer to the wedding. We've been planning that stuff out.
It's wedding season, man. I got like 3 weddings lined up, including yours. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But
yeah,
I'm definitely looking forward to a new change of roles in my job, though. It's gonna be pretty nice. I'm working with a team of like 15 people. Everyone's on the West Coast though, so my hours definitely are gonna be a little bit later in the day, but it is what it is. So.
Oh, and I wanted to have everyone talk to Caleb about his little ETH come up. We've got a big
yeah, it's been running pretty hard. We're at like knocking on the door like 4K for ETH right now. So
how much was it when you started buying it?
First time was $17. So
to the moon.
Yeah.
And Caleb's big on not selling either, so it might just turn to nothing again because he doesn't want to sell it. But
No, I
What are
don't-
you thinking? Do you want to hold on to it longer, or do you see the upside?
From the numbers I ran, from like comparison from like run rates, from like the average like float price to like where it shot up on the all-time high, was like comparing to the last bull run, we're still right now at a cheaper price than what it should be if it matched the run rate of comparing it to say Bitcoin as well. So
Why would it match the run rate?
like just having the like the increase in the coin cost, like it looks like a lot right now, but in comparison to what it's done in the past with lower amounts of hype, lower amounts of people buying into it, and lower amounts of application use of it, it increased higher and like came to a higher rate. So it only makes sense for ETH to increase even higher now because there's more hype, more people, and more use cases for it. So that's the way I'm looking at it right now, that it's just slowly pushing up. Like the last like week or two, it's just been going up slowly and slowly, but at a really consistent rate. Bitcoin's been hovering the same amount, like the same price. So that's where I'm looking at. Of course, it's super tempting just to get out now, take my gains, and then invest in some real estate. But like, I just, you always have the thought of you're leaving money on the table if you sell too early. And, of course, on the flip side of the coin, that you're leaving money on the table, selling too late. So it's just like a constant back and forth. A lot of stress to think about just how much it is, but it's just something I've been thinking about every single day and keeping my numbers up to date. But we'll see what happens. It's just a matter of time to figure out if it starts doing something crazy. I might get out of it. If it keeps going, I'm just gonna ride this train out. So yeah,
I think that's why I'm against the investing thing. Like, I think for me, at least my understanding on the stocks and stuff like that is, the goal of stocks is to incrementally percent daily increases, where like,
well, it's like a
stable.
year percent. Like you're looking at like 7% average for stock returns, for an average of the market, and then you're talking 3% subtracted due to inflation. So you're looking at 4% average gain on your money year over year. So like, yeah, I mean, if you invest, if you diversify and have a lot of the market, you can have that consistent gains. But most people are just gambling. Like they're just straight up buying penny stocks or crazy options and just straight up gambling and losing a lot of money. And I don't think that's the way to go. Like with crypto, I bought it a few years ago now and just had the goal in my mind of losing this money forever unless I don't. And like,
Right.
It wasn't like I'm going to double down and get rich tonight. To like, I'm going to hold this for a long time. I even told myself, I remember, we had that conversation, a year minimum of holding this. So now it's been like 3 or 4 now at least. So it's just like,
I think it just scares me to the fact, like, when you see gains at the rate that we're seeing, that it can drop just as quick. And if it's that volatile, it has the ability to do either or. And with that in mind, like, I can't separate, the percent gain from like a different investment. Like, I can't, it's like, okay, I just saw a 600% increase in the last 2 weeks. It's like, take your money and run. In my eyes, it's like, that's where else could you multiply your money that way?
Yeah. And I think like something that's important that like I have people talking to me about crypto. They're like, what's going on with crypto? How do I get into it? How do I get rich overnight? I want to be a millionaire. And it's like, it's just, that is a quick road to losing all your money, because people who are successful stock traders, don't like investing in crypto because it's just so crazy. And like, I don't think that anybody should be getting into crypto with important money that they need to survive and being like, if this goes up, I'm going to have a different life. If it goes down, I'm going to have a much worse life. And it's just like, that is not the situation you want to be going into, investing in crypto. It's like, from my perspective, you are burning your money 100%. Like, it's gone until it's not. So I think that's the only way I would recommend getting into it. Like 100%, I feel like the best way to start is taking an investment that has a consistent return to build your financial situation, such as like real estate. You can buy the house, granted, as long as you don't sell in a down market, you're always going to have that equity locked up in the building, plus the cash flow coming into you. So you're just going to keep upping your financial position versus gambling on stocks and crypto. It's just not a long-term strategy you can do. Of course, once you have cash flow coming in from your assets, you can use that to invest and gamble on the markets. But until then, I think you really should be focusing on saving up for that first down payment on a multifamily.
Yeah. And it's something too that like I kick myself. Like I sold my Bitcoin in January and it's like, why the heck do you do that? And then you have the FOMO of like, oh, it's going to go up to freaking 100,000, blah, blah, blah. But it's like the difference for me from stocks and real estate is it's much harder to leverage your money in stocks. You can't put in, 3.5% of a stock and then gain 100% over the next couple years, and plus the interest. Like I think people, when they compare stocks to real estate, they're comparing once you own 100%. If you're buying houses in cash and you're putting the full amount and then you're seeing a 6%, but they're not taking into the account, I'm only putting 5% down. I'm only putting 10% down on this asset that someone else is paying for year after year. And then if you look at the numbers that way, you're seeing 50, 60, whatever percent, infinity percent returns on your real estate investments, where in stocks, it's just whatever that stock goes to. I think people inflate the big number on Bitcoin and they're like, oh, 50,000 to 60,000. It's like, well, if you deflate it to $5 to $6, it's the same number. It's
the same percent, yeah.
Exactly.
And like you get to balloon your money with real estate. You get to take like 5% down, like with your triplex, you put down, how much was the total 5% down?
I think it was like 28 grand all in.
So for 28 grand, you got to control an asset that was now probably worth over $300,000.
Absolutely.
And so think about if you put that on the market right now, $28,000 on a stock, and then seeing it go up in value to, over $300,000 worth of assets to control. That's unheard of. Like you can't just like do that.
Right.
You'd have to like hit something huge, and then, it'd be like a lottery ticket at that point. So that's a huge part of real estate that is something that you want to keep in mind, is just how much control you get for such a little bit amount of money.
And it's like the downside is like how liquid is your asset, and like the stock you can sell every day and realize your gains, where real estate's pretty liquid right now too. You can sell it pretty quick.
I could probably sell this place tomorrow if I wanted to. But.
Yeah. So and it's all about the price too. You can take a loss that's actually a gain. Like if you wanted to get rid of a place, someone will buy it today, and that's a wholesaler. Like if you needed to, you could. And I think just like looking at the exit strategies, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, and like you don't have to find the perfect thing, but make sure that you have the exit strategies in place where you're not losing the shirt off your back if you need to get out of it. And I think that there's so many realms in real estate where that's possible, where like you can safely exit if you needed to.
And like barring like a huge personal issue in your life where you need that money right away, like the whole point of this is to increase your money coming in. So like buying this asset with a large chunk of money down, granted you keep some wiggle room with your your liquid on hand to like replace a water heater or whatever the problem is, like you're automatically increasing the amount of money you have, like whether you're cutting your rent bill to live for free in a duplex, or you're getting some money on top, and it's just, you're going to be in a better situation like 9 times out of 10, like no matter what way you split it.
Right. Like when we look at the cash on cash numbers, we're literally looking at how much money we put down, not the value of the asset, and how much money monthly we're bringing in. And that percentage is what should be compared to the stock market. That money here to money there, like how much am I actually getting? And like over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on what your cash on cash is, you recoup that investment, you make that, and then the rest is to infinity for as long as you hold it and as long as you keep maintaining it. And it's like, I don't know. I think that's just...
I think it's because we're so involved with it. It just seems like such a no-brainer to us. But like for most people, there's just like that feeling of like such a big commitment to, signing up for and applying and getting a mortgage and then owning a whole house versus like going on your phone and opening up, Robinhood or Webull and clicking a button and hit buy and like, I'm going to get rich tomorrow.
But so I feel there's personally so much more risk involved in stocks because if Tesla's going down, there's nothing in my power that I can do to increase the value of Tesla. Maybe buy a couple cars, which isn't going to do anything to it. It's
Yeah, if Elon Musk keeps shilling Doge and shareholders don't like it, the value's going to go down. Like, there's nothing you can do, and like, there's nothing in your realm of control to maintain the value of these stocks and cryptos. Like, you are just betting everything on other people. Versus with real estate, you get to choose like
how much money you put into the house, how much you put in maintaining it and making it nicer and upgrading it and doing those things. Like, I personally have the power to do all of that, and like, I don't feel that in stocks. It's like these crooks, they are like, we've seen it. Like, we've seen the shorts, and we've seen like what the people on Wall Street are doing with the money in the stock market. And it's like, dude, I'm so powerless in this, and they will take advantage. The stock market is not for you to make money. It's for them to make money. And like, we're talking to us. We're not talking to a bunch of billionaires. Like, the best, I really think, after really looking in at stocks and really looking in at real estate, like, to change classes, to change wealth classes, like, real estate is the safest bet.
There's, in my perspective, a balance as well. Like, I do own stock. Like, I do.
And so do I.
Invest in some. Like, it's not like you have to choose one or the other, but I think that you should really prioritize like what is most impactful on your life, and having your income turn into a giant snowball that continuously grows and grows faster than, you can get raises at your job or promotions or switch into new roles. Like, it's just such a powerful like foundation that you can set up in your life that'll just make everything else in the future easier. That like, if we've had people on who've made money in stocks and then, had bad luck with it months later and lost some money, and you're just constantly working at maintaining your amount of money, doing all this due diligence of like what's the best stock to put in, your risk ratio and like your returns and all that. And like, it's just so easy to just get wiped out versus keeping that foundation in real estate. You're looking at such a rock solid foundation for the future that it's just, barring, massive personal crisis where you need to sell in a down market, that specific scenario barred, you're going to be set.
Yeah. I guess that's enough about the stocks, but just a little tid more. Like, I also have some stocks in, my 401k and a mutual fund and stuff like that. But the money that I'm putting in there is already locked in on my expenses, where like, I don't notice that money. I'm not putting any of my extra income, any of my extra savings that is towards real estate into those things. Like, it's for me, and I think for anyone who doesn't really know a ton about stocks or crypto, like we've said it a million times, but like, only invest money that you don't care about losing. And if you view it that way, it's a great tool. But if you're looking at that to make you rich, there's so much risk involved, and there's, just a million reasons not to do it.
Yeah. And I think like most people do realize how it is. That it's just the simplicity of getting involved now. It's just too easy to lose your money now. Like, people are just lining up, everywhere just to burn their money on Robinhood and Webull. So it is what it is. But I do want to switch over and get into running back some of the episodes that we've done and just trying to pull some key insights and just important and impactful pieces of information that we found from, the guests we had on, or whether it was just the two of us, and start seeing if we can reiterate some of those points to, really hammer them home. Because like Jake said in the beginning of the episode, it's a lot of content. So, we don't expect everybody to be digging through these and pulling out all this info on their own. So we want to, make sure we maximize the value out of this. So starting at the top, episode 16, we had Dion McNeely on the show, and he really went in on his process and plan of building up that income snowball and just digging himself out of a bad financial situation into being really comfortable and later in life. And some of the key points that he brought up were the binder.
Yeah, I want to dive into this. I think this is such an incredible concept. Like, he's got to write this book soon. Like, I think this can change a lot of people's mind. Like, for me personally, I did not want to inherit tenants. I had no interest in inheriting tenants. I wanted to turn over, get the maximum amount of cash flow I could, get the maximum amount of rent. And, by doing that, you're disregarding that person who's living there. And I think his approach here with the binder. So what the binder strategy is getting an actual binder, printing out a page of a picture of the house and the purchase price. That purchase price is a big amount. Like, it doesn't have to be like what your down payment was on it, but it's like, this is how much I'm going to be paying for this property. And it's a lot. And the next step is a picture of their apartment and what they're paying. Which in this case, the reason for the binder means that it's not enough. It's not up to par with all of the other rentals in the area. So then the next page is other rentals. You can do a map view of all the other recently rented apartments in your area within a few miles. And when let's say they're paying $600 a month for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with 1,000 square feet. You find a bunch of 2-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet apartments, give or take, and you see them renting for $1,200, $1,400, $1,000. You can collect all of that, show an average, show what's available in the next slide. Like, okay, there's this one for $1,500, there's this one for $1,300. Going then into asking the tenant, what do you think is fair? Because the tenant probably understands that especially if they're a long-term tenant, it's going to cost you money to get it up to par. You're going to have to update some things. You're going to have to fix some stuff. Like, to get this rented and on the market and get the high cash flow, you're going to need to put some serious money into it. For them, so now it's a mutual thing. Like, okay, by you staying, I save some money, but by you staying, I lose some money. Like, what do you think is fair? And if they're paying $600 and all the market rents are $1,200 or above, they might say $1,000 is fair, because they know that $1,000 in the next year is gonna the savings, the $200 a month in savings that they're getting is, putting that towards the repair. Like, how, if I would need to fix the whole unit, if it would cost me $10,000, how long would it take to save that money? And it's like, it's a long time. So what Dion was saying was, I can get close and not have to put that initial investment into turning over the tenant.
And saving all the time. Like he said himself, he's lazy, which, I agree with. You don't want to be, working just to work. If you can find a way to, maximize value without spending all this time and energy just to like be in the same spot you were, if you could have just did it a little bit easier, I agree with that completely. And taking that binder, sitting down, negotiating with the tenant directly, letting them know your financial situation, seeing, giving them the option, like, you pick your rent. Of course, if they're like, I don't want to raise my rent at all, you're going to have to tell them, that's just like, we're going to have to terminate the lease then. Like, you cannot rent it out for $500-$600 under market and, pay your mortgage and make any money on it. So it's not like, it's like super risky, but it's people who have been in the same apartment or, unit for a long time most likely want to stay, and you want to accommodate that and like get good tenants and keep them for a long time to prevent your turnover. And I think it's a good way to balance that in between the landlord and the tenant. And then he also mentioned about the leases he signs going forward have incremental increases in the rent every year. I think he said 3% or something like that to, maintain market value rents, which I think is super important. And
because like he said, and I never really thought about it either, was your property taxes go up every year. Your insurance goes up every year. That 3% is an agreed thing. It's not even an inflation thing. It's like, my costs are higher, my rent needs to be higher to maintain. If you don't raise your rents, you're losing money over the course of
think about
years.
It like the value of money continuously goes down over time, and if you keep your rent the same every year, you're consistently giving a discount to your rental, keeping it the same. So I think it's a must-have in all leases I'll be signing going forward, is having that incremental increase in there, because otherwise I'll be, kind of screwing myself out of losing money in the future that I wouldn't have to if I just kept it in in turn with the market.
Yeah. Another thing that he did with that was giving the option to the tenants to sign a 2-year lease, because he put that in his lease that, okay, it's 3% every year. If you sign a 2-year lease, I can't raise the rent in those 2 years. So he's got his tenants asking to pay more money and wanting to extend their lease, which is a landlord's dream. And it's like, but you're giving the power to your tenant, and the relationship is better that way. No tenant's used to asking what they think is fair. And like, I just really, really, really liked his outlook on that. And
I don't know how I didn't think of this till now, but we got to hit him up and get a copy of his leases and
yeah,
see
we
what's
should.
going on.
We
with
definitely
that.
should.
Yeah, he also was just super focused on just building that income snowball up through all this to really get himself going. And one of the things that he uses as a tool to see what the best way is to increase that snowball was just measuring opportunity costs for deals with just like a set baseline of how much money you're putting in it. And you can listen to the episode to get the full breakdown. We'll be updating our deal analysis calculators to include this as one of the tools, but setting like a baseline, like if you can go into one deal at 3.5% down and get a certain cash flow, or you can go into this deal and get, with 15% down and get a certain cash flow, like how do you set a baseline to know which one is the best, like what opportunity costs the least. So this will be something we'll be updating on our stuff, so everyone can have access to this stuff, because it's helping us knowing like how to measure these deals. Like there's so many numbers to look at, like how do you tell what's the best? So that was something cool he brought up as well that we got to put out there.
Yeah, and so what he was talking about was making the threshold, the baseline, putting 20% down, opposed to the lower down payments of claiming residency. And I thought about that, and I was like, that's a great tool for comparing different deals and what you should do. But in reality, because I felt offended. I was like, yeah, but I didn't put 20% down by making that sacrifice of living somewhere and claiming residency and using it as a primary residence. I was able to get it for 5% down or 15% down or 3.5% down. And like, I think when we were talking about it yesterday or on the last episode, like I was kind of sold on like, no, 20% makes the most sense. But it's like, no, like the added benefit of you claiming residency there is valid. Like you are seeing 50% cash on cash. You are seeing 30% cash on cash. The importance, I think, is making sure that if that deal was being analyzed by another investor who their criteria is that it hits 10% cash on cash, you're not getting it and then analyzing it at 20% down and seeing like a 3%, and now you're seeing 15% by claiming residency. Like, is that sacrifice of living somewhere worth 5% on the overall? And it's like, we were talking about this before, and it's like, well, it kind of is. Like, if that's the thing that gives you a competitive advantage on top of all the other investors and you can make your numbers work, if that's the only deal that works, that's worth it. But if you're seeing, 30%, 40%, 50% on a deal because you're putting 3.5% down, take that as a win. You earned that extra. Instead of it taking 10 years to pay itself off, it's doing it in 2 years. It's doing it in 3 years. And like that 1 year is saving you 6 or 7 years. Like those are real numbers. That's how it works.
Yeah. And I know it can be difficult to follow along with like all the numbers and all that. So that's where we want to put out the spreadsheet so you can see like exactly what's going on with like how the numbers fit together, because it can be challenging, over audio to like keep everything together in your head. So, don't feel bad if it didn't make a ton of sense, but we'll be putting those calculators out there.
Yeah. The last thing that Dion was talking about was installing locks, like when he was buying these places and just little upgrades for keeping tenants. He's not going in and remodeling their house, but he was putting in LED lights outside, motion sensor LED lights, and automatic keyless locks that I think is such a good idea. Like he's like, yeah, because it's easier. They don't have to carry a key. 2, you never have to change the locks. A lot of these brands that you can buy hold like 10 different codes. So
Yeah, they're keypad entries, so you just have like a 4-digit code to get in, and like it's such a like a modern thing that it looks nice.
Oh, it
Like
looks great.
it definitely like increases like the front of the house. Like when you walk up and you just type in the pin, like we got 100-year-old houses, both of us do over than that. Like it's a nice little thing to add to like make it better. And like the locks I have in my house now are terrible. Like they are super bad. Like just getting in and out of the doors suck.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing the same thing myself. I know, Jake, you just put some in your place in Souderton. It looks so much better. And just being able to walk in and out without having keys. And then something that landlords have to deal with is tenants getting locked out of their apartments, and I've had to do it a few times. Just like when they first get in, it's easy to do, especially with, like I said, I got terrible locks where they easily lock you out. So it's something you won't ever have to worry about. Granted, the batteries don't die in the locks.
Right. So that's something that I'm kind of using as a control right now. I'm figuring it out myself, but what I was doing to prevent that beforehand was keeping a lockbox on the property where tenant lose their keys, I give them the code for the lockbox, and then they can go get their keys. And that's like not as nice as an automatic thing. So like the first one for our place, like I said, I just installed these in the duplex in Souderton on both units, and the deadbolt was like $50. That's the automated lock. It's the deadbolt, and then below I bought a new handle, so it was like $70 all in per unit. And it looks great.
Did you do it on the back doors as well, or just the front?
So I just did it on the front because I was like thinking about how much money it would cost to do it on all of them, and I was like,
yeah, it's a lot.
Because then I would do it on the basement too, like in the basement doors, and I was like, that just seems like a ton of work, or not a ton of work. The first one literally took me 10 minutes. Very simple. The second one, they didn't have a deadbolt, and I didn't have the stuff necessary to do it nicely, so I was like drilling all the holes out and lining it up, and it took like a little over 2 hours to do that. But again, it was worth it. And what's that opportunity cost? What was the alternative thing that I was going to be doing? I was like, it was kind of rainy outside. We were probably just going to be watching TV. It was like
swiping the gram.
Yeah, so I was super happy with how I spent my day yesterday, and the tenants like it too. So now, for the inevitable, when the batteries do die, I still have the lockbox. I'm keeping the deadbolt keys in the lockbox, so in case the batteries do die. But I'm really hoping to see, like, over the next year or two, or even if it's a couple months, getting that control of like, okay, this lock lasts for 14 months. And if that's the case, every year that's just going to be one of my normal things. When I go to the property, I'm going to swap out the batteries, and it's very easy to do also. So it's like, even if I gave the tenants a pack of batteries and was like, hey, like, this might die, here's some batteries, this is how you do it, it's easy. So we'll see how that goes, but I thought that was another great thing. And I think today, when we're done, I'm going to head over to the Quakertown triplex and put three in there. So
yeah, it's definitely a nice little thing to have, especially if you got older locks like I do. Like, it's going to be a massive difference once those are in. But yeah, going on to the next one, episode 15, we had Kevin Riley on, the motivational speaker, ex-NFL player, and it was really cool to have that conversation with him and get his life story. And I think the biggest pieces of information to pull out is just how important it is to set goals for yourself, like knowing what you want to do. Like, if you don't have a direction, you'll never know when you get there. So I think that everybody should take some time, Saturday afternoon, sit down, with yourself or a significant other, and just prioritize what's important to you and set some goals to achieve to try and get there. Because, without that, you're going to be kind of shooting in the dark, and you'll never know when you'll be there or when you're even making progress. So it's something that is super important for everybody.
Yeah, I think that when we were having that conversation and like going forward, and I kind of internalized something someone said to me, it was like, well, I kind of want to enjoy my 20s. Like, I want to be able to not always have this extra burden. I don't want to always be focused on money. Like, money isn't everything. And it's like, that's true. And I'm a firm believer in, like, I want to enjoy my life also. And it's like, we had talked about this before. It was like, Caleb was thinking about buying a single family house or buying a duplex, and it's like, well, I don't really want to manage tenants. It's like, well, yeah, like no one wants to manage tenants. It's not this thing that's just easier. It's takes more work, but in the long term, your future self is going to be happy about it. And like that same thing goes into whatever you're doing to find financial independence. It's like putting all this work in is there's a balance to it. Like I've been on both ends where like I was doing way too much and didn't have time for other things. But like if I look back on that year, you know, the amount of stuff that we did, the amount of fun things that we did, the amount of trips that we went on and different things with friends, like, and for me personally, I needed Kayla for that. Like she kept me balanced with doing those social things, but like you can do both. I think a lot of people don't think so. Like a lot of people think that you can either just be 100% grinding constantly and having no fun, or just having fun and not grinding. And like there is a balance. And by being able to really prioritize what's important to you, you know, if you want to set aside a day a week to go surfing or to go rock climbing or to do whatever thing, like you can do that. But by writing it down and making these things, like blocking out parts of your schedule, you can get the rest done in the rest of the amount of time. Like it's always possible. But I think those long days are essential. Like in order to do it, in order to achieve your goals, you're going to have to put in more than the minimum. And that's just...
And some people do it differently as well. Like personally, my experience has been that I complete these things in sprints where I have like a few months, 1 month to 3 months, 4 if I'm going crazy, where I just go all in on something where, I'm not hanging out with friends on the weekends. I'm not, watching TV at nights during the week. I'm just focused on getting this done, where you just work for that short period of time where you can get a massive amount done. And then you can then spend the rest, of the time where you're not in a sprint, just relaxing, socializing, and having fun. So it's not like your 100% of your life is being erased for work. It's that you're, going in between sprints and rest, where like committing to that sprint and getting all that work done just sets you up to then be able to rest for a little bit. And I think that's something that has worked for me pretty well, being able to just like, I'm not going to be doing anything but this for the next few months until it's done.
Yeah. And I'm huge on that too. Like you can, because you can do it two ways. You can do it like big sprints of like constant grinding, or you can do like just a really long, like,
drawn out process.
A drawn out, like, okay, I'm going to put an extra 3 hours on top of I'm going to work 11 hours every single day for the next 3 years. Or you could work, do a couple 16-hour days in a sprint and then chill the rest. And I think doing the house hacking stuff and flipping the places ourselves and making everything nice, like we're both seeing you buy it, now starts the sprint. You get the sprint over with, and it's pretty calm after that.
Big
like
time. Yep.
It really turns down. Like Caleb's seeing it now. Like he's at the point with the property that he's not worried and constantly doing stuff with the property. He's now sprinting in a different race. Like he's doing a totally separate workflow sprint, but it's the same thing. And the only way you get better at it is by doing it. It's just like sprinting, you know what I mean? It's like if you run more, you'll be able to run more later.
Yeah, because I started September 2020, went all the way till like mid-January for when I bought the house, and then had myself move, like had everything done where I was like calm and content and was able to relax, and then just kind of chilled for like a few months. And then starting like April was the next sprint for, on the software engineer side, where I just had to get a lot done and move myself up. That was just the next sprint to get done, and I'll probably be after that just chilling again until I have to buy another property. So it's just going to be back and forth on that for a little bit.
And I think there's like it's kind of shitty, but it's also kind of good. Like the more you sprint, the more you feel like a piece of shit when you're not sprinting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a weird balance, because like you're
the first like 2 weeks after you're done with the sprint, you're just,
enjoying it. You're
in
like,
heaven. You're
thank
just like,
goodness this is all done.
I just did all that work and now I'm done and now I get to enjoy it all. And then like after those 2 weeks, you're just like,
I should be doing something
what am
more.
why am I not doing anything right now? But that just drives you to find the next thing to start working on. So it's going to be different for everybody, but I think that's doing it in sprints is probably the most balanceful, the way you can do it, where you're not drawing things out too long, but you're not, losing your life away for just work and no play.
Yeah. So that was a really cool episode. And Kevin is a little older than us, and he was able to, give a lot of lessons. And it was definitely, it wasn't real estate related, but a lot of this stuff inside of it you can implement to your personal life, whether it's with real estate or any type
a lot of mindset for sure,
yeah.
which is super important. And going on to the next one, we have episode 14 with Nathan Stafford, where he went through his journey about starting in the downturn of the real estate market, picking up properties for super cheap, all cash, fixing them all up himself, and then building up a portfolio where he was able to, get pretty comfortable. He did end up selling it to move due to personal reasons, but he had some really cool insights on just how he managed it, of just keeping track of all the work and like creating systems to replicate his work so that everything was the same and he always knew what to do going into all these different properties, which I thought was a pretty smart thing to do, especially when you got that much going on. And of course, no storm doors. Get rid of them.
Get rid of your storm doors.
Nobody wants this.
When I go over, I'm fixing a storm door today, and it's like, should I just take them off? And then like, I think I'm gonna wait till one like really breaks to X-nay them all, but we'll see.
And after that, he just brought in just like how if you are in a situation where you don't have a lot of money to get started, but you have the drive and the passion to get started and learn, create a plan where you can then propose that to family and friends to help you get started on the money side. That if you spend the time to really hash that stuff out, you can, if you have, of course, the opportunity to do that. Not everybody has that rich uncle who can give them some money, but if you are in a situation where you have family and friends to help you, you just want to be able to just create the plan to then be as successful as you possibly can. Of course, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be ups and downs. He had his first tenants completely trash the house, and he lost out on some money because of it, but he just kept going and then took that into effect and changed all his processes going forward. So he took that failure and changed it into something that made everything else better in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, for his particular situation, it was his dad who had the cash, but like, I don't think you necessarily need the rich dad or the rich uncle or anything like that. Like, if you are able to properly get yourself in the right situation, in the right network, and you have the background, like if you have the backing of the knowledge of all the podcasts that you've been listening to, of all the books you've been reading, of all the strategies and stuff, and you can present a real idea of how they can beat their mutual fund return, and you're willing to do the work, to do the research, to find the deal, to flip the house, to do all that stuff where someone can be a bystander, split the property and the cash flow 50-50, and like can be hands off, and again their return is exceeding what their mutual fund would do. It's like instilling that trust in people is a skill that Seth talks about in his episode. I think that's episode 9. We'll get to there, but like, I think this avenue, if you're really strapped for savings rate and you don't have the time for the side hustle or whatever excuse, like, but you do have the time to listen to this and learn the skills and to be able to do it efficiently, like even if you just need to do it one time to get that extra cash flow, to be able to start saving for your own place, like I really think this is such a great way. And to even you get good at, you do one flip and it's like, wow, now I know how to do a flip. Like that's what Nathan did. He was like, I don't know that much about construction, but I'm going to go in there and figure it out. And so he got paid to learn. And it's like, to me, that's a lot better of an investment than college. Yeah.
You cannot be getting paid to learn. Yeah. And that was a good episode, especially with just like the processes I feel like were really cool. And going on to next episode, number 13, Susie Truax, who is a real estate agent in California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida. She's been in real estate since, I think, 99, I believe she said 99, 2000, but been a long time. She's gone through a lot of deals. She started investing in real estate in the early 2000s, kind of got out of it, has been recently getting back into it, and she had her experiences that she told us about with Airbnb and how she's been making some good money, the struggles she had with that. And it was just it was a cool perspective to have her on, because there's not a lot of women in real estate investing. There's a lot of women real estate agents, but on the investing side, where like the risk is just, less palatable, it's kind of a rare thing to have. So it was cool to see her perspective and her thoughts on that, and just like how it's difficult for women to get involved, because like it's all men in there now, and people kind of relate to what they're similar with. And if somebody, a man who's an investor, is going to help somebody get involved, most likely, due to the trends we're seeing, it's going to be another man they're helping get involved. So she's been trying to get other women involved with it, and it was cool to see how she's been doing with that. And
yeah, we did a poll on Instagram of like, what do you think is keeping women from getting involved in real estate? And we had, being handy, is that something that you're taught? Are women just overall less handy? Is it because the barrier to entry, like there's so much risk involved if you don't know, like, is there just not enough knowledge? Is that why? Or is it because, what was the third one? I think it was, I know the one that won was the male patriarchy keeping women down. And that was kind of like, I wouldn't say a joke, because there's definitely merit to it, but that was the one that won. And I do think that that's a huge part, and it goes back to, you can consider the male patriarchy, that there's not that what Caleb was saying about like the mirroring and helping each other and the tribalism. Like if there's more men doing it, well, why is there more men doing it? But then you go back and you go to,
the human nature aspect of it is kind of big. And I think like as the information about its success and like how anybody can get involved with it and how it's decentralized, where you don't need to do all your own work to be successful, like all that information gets out there, we're going to see more of a balance. So going forward, I think that it'll be slowly getting more and more evenly, distributed. But, in the meantime now, it's definitely a more male-dominated area. But that's not to say that's a bad thing. That happens with many industries, and we see that all over the world with different areas. So I do think the Airbnb that she was talking about, the one that she had to kind of solidified the success of that in my mind, of just like, if you can get the people set up for it with the maids and the handyman in the local area, where all you have to do is handle the text messages of the people coming in,
and you don't even need to do that.
Yeah, you can hand that off to somebody else too. That's just a no-brainer, just to get some more money, especially what you mentioned before with that 10% down vacation house, as long as the laws permit it and all that.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. Like, I my ideal thing would be like a duplex, because I love multifamily, and to have like, one long-term tenant that I trust, who does like the handyman stuff and kind of keeps an eye on the property. And
just another Jordan.
Yeah, I just need a bunch of Jordans, someone that like I trust with anything and would do that. But I know that's kind of an unrealistic goal. And then have the other one as a short term, but you can't use the 10% vacation home on a duplex. Like, that doesn't really make sense.
Vacation investment property.
But there are single family houses with carriage homes that are the same thing, and that's been in my search criteria. I originally was looking in Hawaii, and they have their Ohana suites, and it's a carriage house. It's a separate house, and a lot of people use that and are able to use the vacation rentals, but the barrier to entry is so high there. It's so expensive. And so that's what kind of brought me back to Florida and Puerto Rico as like more affordable.
And you have to be a native Hawaiian as well to buy a lot of the properties.
Yeah. For anything that's reasonably priced, you have to be a native Hawaiian, which is tough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, going on to number 12, we had Todd Hennessy on for one of the most important episodes that we've done for anybody who wants to get started investing in real estate, because it covers the financing side. And this is just such an important part of real estate because it's going to stick with you for the 30 years, of your mortgage. So like getting everything hashed out and done right the first time when you get the mortgage is super important. So there's not much justice we can do to this episode to try and pull out key pieces of information because
go listen to it.
It's just such an important episode that if you want to buy a property, regardless of if you're going to invest or not, you got to listen to this episode because we cover so many different aspects of mortgages that it's just something everyone needs to know going forward.
And it was just such a low, we only scratched the surface on the questions that I had for him. Like, we could probably have him on for like 6 more hours, like 4 more podcasts, like really
get his whole team on the podcast.
I know, seriously. Yeah. And we definitely will have him back. I don't know when, but that.
And one of his guys actually, Dylan, got started on a duplex. We got to see how
yeah,
he's
that
doing
would be
with
that would probably be a good podcast too.
Yeah, going forward again, we got episode 11 with Mike Rivera. He was kind enough to show us all the info on his deals that he's been doing in more lower income areas and just how much cash flow he's been able to pull out of these cheaper areas. And it was something that both of us were kind of, on the edge about, like putting money into these areas, dealing with the crime rates and dealing with the tenant issues. But he was, in a situation where he hasn't dealt with a eviction except for that one time due to COVID, but he's been getting extremely high returns on these properties for how little he's putting into them, and then expanding out onto all the other avenues of ways to get cash flow, from gumball machines to vending machines, like just any way to just squeeze as much money out of your money as you can, just putting a little bit in and getting a little bit back every single month.
And that's just like, seriously, if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad yet, like turn off the podcast and just start that, because what he's talking about and what all these investors have in common is like, we all view money as little soldiers that can be used to make us more money. And once you like cemented that mindset into you, like you're going to work not so that you can survive, you're going to work so that you can save the money necessary for your money to keep working for you. And you can be as passive or as, hands-on as you want with it. But like, that's the real, once you get that mindset, once you get over that hurdle of like saying, oh, I can buy this much off of this, it's like, how much money can this money make me? And he really goes into that. And like, again, like going back to my personal stuff, like this year, after we do this 4-unit, hopefully, I'm looking to do a second deal this year. And if it doesn't end up being the 10% down vacation rental, I will definitely be considering going into that lower market, because I think it's very similar to how we were talking about like stocks and crypto, where, when you buy at such a low rate, when the market value is so low and the cash flow is so high, it's not a guarantee that it's going to appreciate. But if it does, if someone starts developing, making it into the new fish town in Philly, like those, you can hit it big. It's like Dogecoin or these little shit coins that like you have to get involved to see those returns. And like where we're investing, there's a bigger barrier to entry. Places are more expensive, but we're going to see less cash flow and more steady appreciation, where like, and there's some, if you go in the class above us, you're seeing no cash flow, but really betting on appreciation. This lower tier, you're getting definite high cash flow, and the opportunity might come for you to really hit it big. And like,
or the opportunity of negative appreciation.
Right. And that can happen too. But if you're hitting the big cash flow and your monthly payments are covered and you're making money off of it, and you're not constantly going through evictions and tons of time consuming stuff, it's the move.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I feel like most properties, like in the different areas, are just a balance between, consistent appreciation or consistent cash flow. And like our market is a pretty even balance. I feel like where we're buying our properties in, but definitely something that if you want to get a boost to your cash flow and you want to go into those lower income areas and pick up some properties for an investment 25% down or whatever, you could definitely make out pretty well. And I think that feeds in pretty well to the next episode, number 10, where we covered investing in real estate or paying down your student loans first and just prioritizing making your money work for you first so that you can then be in a better situation in the future. Because if your interest rates are low enough that your loans aren't going to balloon and you can take the money and save it up and purchase a property to increase your savings rate, you can then be in 4 years, 5 years time, investing in real estate, then paying your student loans afterwards. You're going to be in a better spot versus paying your student loans first and then start saving up for real estate. So it's all about creating that income snowball of getting your money to work for you to then grow and create your foundation and be in a better spot in the future.
Right. So definitely, we're just talking about college debt in this episode. We're not talking about consumer debt. And there's a huge difference. And if you have a consumer debt where you're paying 20, 30% interest, like, you got to get rid of that before you get into real estate.
Yeah, there's no consistent returns in real estate where you can bank on beating that interest with your real estate returns to justify, not paying that. So 99.9% of the time, if you've got a bunch of credit card debt, you're going to have to pay that down first before getting into real estate, just because you'll be really hurting yourself, letting that interest build up.
Oh, and also, I don't think we've talked about this, but I heard it on an episode of another podcast I was listening to, but they were advertising for a company that refinances your college debt. And I think looking into that, like, that's important. Like, look at what your rate is, look what you can get it down to, because it's the same as it's
just another loan.
It's just another loan. It's the same type of thing as if you were refinancing your house. You could either be paying 12% or you could pay the money to get it down to 3%. If you have that option.
Yeah, if you've got an older loan that was locked in before money became as cheap as it is now, you may have the opportunity of getting a lower down payment. I've never heard or looked into refining student loans, but like at the end of the day, it's just debt. Debt is a great asset. So why would companies not invest in, owning debt for people? So that's something to consider for sure.
Just worth looking into is all I'm saying for anyone in that certain situation.
Yeah. And episode 9, we had Seth Bartholomew on, who had an absolute banger of a story, just like his journey from starting with pretty much nothing and, having the pit of the despair that just kept getting deeper and deeper as he just kept doing more and more, and then, eventually getting to like the cusp of getting out of it. And I don't think he was quite out when we had him on, because he still hadn't, gotten...
Well, because he got another thing, so he kind of went back into the pit, but knowingly that like he knew that he could get out because he got out of the last one. Like it was such a eye-opening story, and still would be too much risk for me to handle. Like, even after listening to him, like, even though it worked out so well for him and it's working out so well, like he just got his last single family rented out, and like the place is gorgeous. Like, and his numbers are fantastic. Like he's really doing it right. It's just scary to me. Like
it's like pedal to the metal, just like going as hard as you possibly can, pulling out as much money from as many credit cards as you can possibly get, finding all your deals off market through networking like a machine, to then being able to, like, from the title of the episode, getting 3 properties with 6 units for only $10,000 out of pocket. Right. That is insane. Like, that's he's definitely in a much better spot, than he was before. He just had to go through hell and back to be able to get there. So there's definitely much more balanced approaches to doing that, but you're to spend more money out of pocket to be able to get there. So he could write a book on that. He could also write a book for his ability to network. I think Seth is one of the best examples we've had on of like really adding value to as many people as you can, finding out what the people in your sphere, constantly growing your sphere, what's their pain points and what's their strengths, and balancing that with everyone that you know. Like,
if you know what everyone's pain points and everyone's strengths is and you connect people, you're the freaking guy that did that. Like, and people feel indebted to you. And he's not doing it as like this super self-serving thing, even though it's going to come back 100-fold for him. And like, I've definitely taken in a lot that he kind of shared with us and have been trying to do that more with the people that I meet and the people that I already know. Like, how can I help you? And just that simple thing, like it's not crazy.
Going up to a complete stranger and like talking to them for a little bit and being able to like get them to expose like what struggles they have going on. It's not like a, you know, a nefarious kind of a thing, but it's just through simple conversation. You mentioned, oh, I've just been trying to find, you know, a triplex for a little bit now, and I've just been having a really bad time doing it. You're like, oh, I know a guy
who's selling a triplex,
you know, a town over. Do you want his number? And you're like, yes. And if it works out, you know, amazing. If it doesn't, it's
who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, you're not on the hook for making their life successful or not. You're just sharing your resources. And I think he really covered that well. Definitely give that episode a listen.
Yeah, that was awesome. And like I said, he networks like a machine. Like, he just doesn't stop. Like, I don't even think he does it on purpose. He just, you know, is just so good at it just by default. So really good pieces of knowledge to pull out of there. And switching over to the next one, episode 8, Building Wealth While Starting a Family with Sean McIntyre. He is a real estate agent from New Jersey who's had a lot of success getting duplexes just outside of New York City in New Jersey and
killing it.
Just
awesome numbers.
So much cash flow he's getting from these places, all while having, you know, multiple kids, multiple dogs, and
a full life where so many people in that position don't feel that they're capable of picking up their family and having a neighbor. It's like, dude, that's not that insane. Like, for the short-term sacrifice is so worth that. Like, the reward that you're gonna get, it doesn't even make sense. But like, it's easy for me and Caleb to say that when we just have our girlfriends, you know, and like, look, we just got to make this little sacrifice, you know, having your kids move school districts and having your, you know, all those different things it's
a much higher barrier of entry.
And he did it. And so, like, for us to say, oh yeah, you can do it too, it doesn't mean that much. But for him to be able to like, look, I did it and so can you, it's awesome. And he's been really pushing his business, you know, going up and working with a lot more people who are trying to get into house hacking, working with more investors. And like, it's something that I'm personally looking to do in the future as well. And I don't know. That was an awesome episode, and he also connected us with Craig, and you know, he's been a great asset. So definitely grateful for Sean too. He got me an EXP as well. So, and
if you like have questions for somebody who has personal experience investing in moving into and house hacking with a family, you know, on episode 8 we have his contact information, and he would love, you know, he told us he wants to help other people out. So, you know, you can shoot him a PM or something if you have specific questions about how that works, because like Jake said, we don't have personal experience house hacking with families, and that's a whole other can of worms. So, you know, definitely reach out.
But so the thing then on top of that was, you know, Sean got me into EXP, and like, I've got, like I said earlier in the episode, like a lot of people reaching out like, hey, what would you do? And like, or what did you do? Like, what's your story? And, you know, when I tell the stuff about, you know, getting my real estate license just for my personal deals and maybe helping someone else, like, my real answer to a lot of people is like, get your real estate license. So it kind of kills clients for me, or potential clients, but I really think it's the smartest move. You know, if you're planning on doing this and buying a property a year, like, it is 100% worth it to go there. And then from there, it's like, where's the best place to hang it? And it's like EXP if that's what you're doing. So I've, you know, got a lot of value there. So
yeah, because you get 100% of the money back for your own deal. So it's kind of a no-brainer to pick them if that's your goal.
Yeah, and what I'm doing now with this FHA loan, I'm rolling my commission, the full 3%, into a 3.5% deal that it goes to your closing costs. So now I don't have to pay income tax on that income because it's getting rolled directly into the closing costs. So it's just like a really useful tool, which I didn't do on the last 2 deals. Like I took the commission separately. I didn't roll it in. And after talking to Craig, he kind of explained that process better and like really cemented it in my head that like that's the move. Like, and so, I'm going to be getting in this place a lot cheaper, and so can you. Like, getting your real estate license isn't rocket science, like, and it's not that expensive either. So definitely, if you're buying one property, I would still go take the course, spend the $800, learn the info, even if you never use it yourself. The next one was House Hacking 101, episode 6 with Craig Kurlop, who he was the author of the house hacking strategy, who worked at Bigger Pockets. He made real estate investing work with a really expensive market, and he wrote the book about it. And it's a really cool episode. He's definitely got a lot of tips for house hacking, a lot of cool stories that he had, Airbnb being part of his one unit, and like just making it work no matter where you're at. So that was a super cool episode. Definitely give it a listen, and definitely check out his podcast, the Phi Team podcast. I just did an episode with him. I don't know when they're releasing it, but I should be on the podcast shortly. And, he's got a lot of really cool guests and a lot of different stories. So definitely go check it out.
And then after that, we had Personal Sovereignty on episode 5, where we just really hammered in the point of like how important it is to create your budget and just know where your money's going. Because, if you want to start saving for an investment, you got to know like where you can fix where your money's going out, and just how you can just increase your savings rate as much as possible. And just having that budget is just super important.
Right. Just basically taking control of your life. That's what the personal sovereignty means. Like doing the best that you can at your job, being the best. Like it creates a snowball of like a requirement of excellence for your well-being, being accountable for the life that you have. Like no sob stories, no poor me, like take control now.
And like feeding back to what we said earlier about just like, what does your future self want you now to be doing to put that future self in the best position possible? So, a lot of the same principles, in these topics, but they all just kind of feed together so well. And going on to episode 4, we had alternate investing, stocks, and crypto with Jordan Aldifer. And we kind of glossed over a little bit on stock terminology back when it was, really getting super popular. And, we've set our opinions on how we feel about that, going forward. And, if you want to lose your money fast without, having anything to show for it, just start getting into investing in stocks and crypto without any knowledge on how it works.
There you go. Or you'll just become a millionaire. It could be one or the other. So
it's only one.
Play the lottery
two.
ticket. You can't win if you don't play. So definitely. And yeah, Jordan's been looking into some real estate deals too. So we're hopefully going to get him somewhere soon.
Yeah, we've been trying to get him into the game for a little bit now, so we're hopefully going to get him soon. But moving on to episode 3, we had involving your significant other, and that was just where we just really wanted to talk about how key communication is if you're doing these house hacks with a significant other, because it does involve, a lot of stress, a lot of, new things that you're not used to doing, and just making sure you don't have underlying issues that build up and then boil out and cause fights and stuff in the future.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much it. It's so important, we can gloss over it, but that's a really good episode where me and Caleb both talk about like our personal experiences with our significant others, and like how we did it, how we might have done things differently, how it's going now. Like that's, if you're thinking about getting into investing, like make sure you're talking to that significant other, because it's going to make your life a lot easier.
Don't do what Jake did and not
Just
say anything about it.
Yeah. So
going on to episode 2, we had favorite failures, and that was just something where we wanted to get the point across about just how it's important to like find your strengths and then be able to look back at things that you thought could have been or probably were or are failures that you had in your life, and what you learned from them, and like where you are because of them, whether it's a better position or, what you learned from that to put yourself in a better position going forward.
I just talked to someone the other day, and they were like, I had this opportunity, but I didn't want to feel like it was handed to me. Like a lot of guys that I've talked to, you know, when me and Caleb are talking here and telling our stories, it's like we didn't have any rich resources or rich people. We had resources, but we didn't have like rich people in our corner to like fall on as a safety net. And a lot of people have reached out to me who like have that safety net, like people who are doing well financially or their parents are doing well financially. And they're like, well, I don't want to feel like anything was given to me. And like, I was just talking to someone the other day and it was like, use your resources. Like, it's not wrong to use your resources. Like, don't feel penalized for having successful parents, but like use it to the max. And how can you change lives? How can you achieve your goals and like make a difference in society? Like, if you get an expedited process on like what me and Caleb have, that's great, as long as it's, you know, going into your goals and like helping as many people as you can or whatever it is. Like,
and I would say just because you're not deep in the pit of despair doesn't mean it's still easy.
Right. So definitely, you know, I feel like a lot of people have that like guilt when they talk to, you know, someone who was in the pit of despair, and it's like, you don't need to feel that way. We're all after the same end goal. And, you know, financial independence, a lot of rich people don't have financial independence, and like that's a big key. So, and then, you know, our first episode was pretty much just a breakdown of how we got started in our stories. So if you have any interest, feel free to give it a listen, but if you don't want to, you know, we don't really care.
We broke down our deals and like our cash flow and like what we thought going into them and like what we're seeing for returns, just how the process worked from getting as much out of it as we possibly could and from learning, getting experience, and then of course the financial side as well. So if you're curious to see like how a couple of newbies got involved with the game and all the stress and craziness that we had to go through to get to where we're, you know, currently at now, you know, definitely check out the episode if you want to see our stories.
Yeah. So that's our table of contents there. And, you know, definitely if you guys are enjoying the episodes, like it, subscribe to it on YouTube or subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, whatever you're listening to. Give us a comment, give it a rating, like, and on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, like, give us feedback. Like, if you have questions, I think this would be a cool, like, kind of segue. If, you know, literally if anyone has questions, like, send them in, because I guarantee someone else has that same question. If we can, like, you know, we don't know all the answers, but if we can break it down and kind of systematize it and try to answer questions, you know, that's the point of this. We want to help as many people as we can find this financial independence. So again, the more you like, subscribe, whatever, the better chances we have of growing, getting better guests. It's like a full circle type of thing. So,
and you learn more about a topic teaching other people. So we don't see helping other people as a burden, you know, whatsoever. Right. You know, it's something that we enjoy doing. So like, that's the reason why we started doing this. So if you've got questions or you know, need help getting a plan or something like that, you know, definitely reach out and we'll be able to help you out as much as we can.
Yeah. All right. Well, word up, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.